Sometimes I wonder how different everything might have been if I'd never trusted them. My parents' voices still echo in my mind, full of warmth and hope, proudly telling anyone who'd listen about my bright future. I remember my 8th birthday vividly, balloons, laughter, my father lifting me onto his shoulders and declaring, "Kimmy's going to have a brilliant life. Her college fund is all set. She'll never have to worry about a thing." Those words wrapped around my childhood like a security blanket, assuring me I could chase any dream I wanted. But today, standing in the cold, sterile silence of the bank, reality ripped every comforting layer away. "I'm sorry, Miss Blake," the bank manager said gently, her eyes brimming with awkward sympathy. "There's nothing left. The account was emptied almost 2 years ago." A cold dread swept over me. My heart pounded painfully against my ribs. "Emptied? That's impossible," I whispered, gripping the edge of the desk for support. She slid a paper across to me. "Withdrawn. By your parents," she confirmed softly. Betrayal gripped my heart, squeezing until tears blurred my vision. How could they do this? The ground felt uneven beneath me as I stumbled out of the bank, my mind spinning with disbelief and denial. Every once warm memory now twisted into something sharp and cruel. Fueled by confusion and anger, I stormed into my parents' house. My mother sat at the kitchen table sipping coffee with unsettling calm, as though she hadn't just shattered my world. My father stood at the window, staring out blankly. "How could you?" My voice trembled with hurt and accusation. "You emptied my savings. Why?" They exchanged a glance. No remorse, not even hesitation. My mother's voice was steady. Dismissive. "Eva needed it more, Kimberly. She's struggling." "Struggling?" I echoed, barely recognizing my own voice. "Eva just bought a house. I was counting on that money." "Yes," my father cut in, his gaze finally meeting mine, cold, indifferent. "Eva bought her home because we helped her. She's had difficulties you wouldn't understand. You've always been the spoiled one. It's time you learned to stand on your own." His words landed like blows, knocking the breath from me. Spoiled? I'd followed every rule, worked tirelessly to make them proud, and somehow it was never enough. The injustice burned through me, my body shaking with hurt. "But you said it was mine, for my future." My voice barely rose above a whisper. My mother sighed and set down her cup. Irritation flickered in her eyes. "Ava deserved it more," she said flatly. "Honestly, Kimberly, it's always been so easy for you. Can't you handle one setback without throwing a tantrum?" Her tantrum echoed, and I stood frozen. The sting of her words reopened every wound I'd buried beneath years of forced smiles and hollow assurances. A wave of nausea rose in my throat, my childhood trust shattering completely. Warmth once tied to family was replaced by a harsh, unforgiving chill. The parents I thought I knew, the ones I believed protected me, had just shown me how disposable I truly was. "You lied to me," I said, my voice sharpening with raw determination. "All these years, you let me believe I mattered to you, just as much as ever." My father turned away, gaze returning dismissively to the garden outside. "Grow up, Kimberly. This is real life. Not everything revolves around you." Their casual cruelty pierced deep, embedding itself in my chest. But amidst the pain, something stirred, a spark lit by the truth they'd forced upon me. I wouldn't be their doormat anymore. As I turned to leave, tears blurred my vision. But this time they weren't from sorrow. They burned with betrayal, anger, and something new. Resolve. They thought they'd silenced me, kept me neatly in line. They had no idea how wrong they were. Stepping outside, I took in a shaky breath, shaken, but unbroken. I knew what I had to do. They had rewritten my past without permission, but I would take control of the future. They would learn the consequences of betraying someone they never imagined would fight back. That night, sleep eluded me. Old memories surged, patterns of favoritism I'd spent years trying not to see. I remembered birthdays forgotten, brushed off with casual apologies, while Ava's were extravagant events. My academic achievements received indifferent nods, while Ava's minor wins were celebrated. Every family conversation seemed to orbit her needs. Her mistakes were forgiven. Mine were dissected as selfishness. Desperate for support, I decided to confront Ava, hoping maybe she'd understand. I found her lounging on her patio, wine glass in hand, surrounded by friends. Their laughter faded as I approached. "Ava, we need to talk," I began, steadying my voice. She raised an eyebrow, lips curling into a smirk. "About what now?" "Our parents used my savings for your house," I said plainly, watching for any flicker of remorse. She laughed, loud, cruel amusement dancing in her eyes. "You're so spoiled, Kim. Stop whining. It wasn't even your money, it was just sitting there. Wasted on you." Her friends exchanged uneasy glances, but Ava didn't care. My cheeks burned. Humiliation. Rage. As I turned to walk away, I heard her voice behind me. "Can you believe she thinks she deserves that money? Like she's ever struggled for anything." Each word cut deeper, but instead of crumbling, something inside me solidified. Ava thought she'd won. She had no idea. This was only the beginning. The days that followed felt hollow. A dull ache settled deep. All my life, I'd been the strong one, the independent one. But now, with the truth exposed, I felt invisible. At a family gathering, I drifted silently through the rooms, always on the edges. My mother laughed brightly as she described Ava's new house. My father's voice boomed with pride over her achievements, conveniently ignoring her failures. Needing air, I stepped onto the porch, only to find Uncle Richard there. Leaning against the railing, his eyes were kind, watchful. "Hey, Kim," he said gently. "You doing okay?" My throat tightened, and before I could stop myself, I told him everything. The betrayal, Ava's mockery, my parents' cruel indifference. He listened silently, pain growing in his expression. "I'm so sorry, Kimberly," he finally said, voice thick. "I've seen them treat you unfairly for years. I should have said something." I shook my head, wiping away tears. "It's not your fault, Uncle Richard." He sighed, staring out into the night. "Family loyalty should never come at the cost of your self-worth, Kim. Remember that." His words struck something deep. All my life I'd fought for their approval, clung to the idea that family meant unconditional love. But in that moment, clarity arrived like a storm. I owed nothing to people who treated me like an afterthought. Meeting Richard's eyes, I found my voice again. This time, steadier. "You're right. They've made their choice. Now I'll make mine." He smiled, pride warming his expression. "Whatever you decide, Kimberly, know you're not alone." With his support bolstering me, I moved forward. I began gathering evidence, carefully, thoroughly. Each step felt both empowering and devastating. I was exposing the people who raised me. But with each discovery, the betrayal deepened. In a quiet downtown office, I sat across from a lawyer. My hands trembled slightly in my lap. "They didn't just withdraw your savings," she said softly but seriously. "They forged your signature. They falsified documents. Kimberly, this is bank fraud." The weight of her words hit me like a wave. Their betrayal wasn't just emotional. It was criminal. I swallowed hard. "What happens next?" She slid a folder toward me. "We build a case, but once you begin, there's no going back." I nodded slowly. They didn't leave me a choice. After leaving the office, I went straight to Uncle Richard. We met at a small cafe. His presence calmed my racing heart. "Did you know?" I asked softly. "About them taking the money?" His sigh was heavy. "I didn't know how far they'd gone. I suspected. But when I confronted them about the favoritism, they shut me out. I've regretted not doing more ever since." It stung, but also healed. I hadn't imagined it. I wasn't overreacting. He reached out, his hand covering mine. "You're brave, Kim. You don't owe them your silence." His words gave me strength. I started planning a dinner, a family gathering under the illusion of reconciliation. My parents agreed eagerly, smug in their assumption I was coming back to apologize. Ava was no different. But I wasn't coming to make peace. I was coming to speak truth at last. By 12:03, betrayal had already begun unraveling beneath the polite clink of silverware and wine glasses. Ava lounged confidently, swirling her glass of red as she detailed her grand renovation plans. My parents watched her with pride, their smiles wide, untouched by concern. My hands trembled slightly under the table as I rehearsed, over and over, the truth I was about to speak aloud. A truth that would change everything. Just as I summoned the courage to interrupt, I heard my mother's voice float clearly from the next room, carried by the silence between conversations. "Yes, we helped Eva." "Using Kim's funds?" she said, pride unmistakable in her tone. "She's earned it after all she's overcome. Kimberly will manage. She always does." Her words sliced clean through me, reigniting the wound I thought I'd numbed. A quiet breath steadied me as I rose and stepped into the dining room. Eyes turned. Conversations halted. "Actually," I began, voice calm though my heart thundered in my chest, "there's something you all should know." "Kimberly, this isn't the time," my father cut in sharply, irritation flashing across his face, but I didn't stop. "I filed fraud charges against you. Both of you." The silence that followed was deafening, dense, suffocating. My parents' faces drained of color. Pride gave way to panic. Across the room, Ava's confident mask cracked. Her eyes widened. Her hand tightened around the stem of her glass. "How could you do something so cruel?" My mother gasped, anger and shock warping her voice. "Cruel?" I echoed, locking eyes with her. "You stole my future. You forged my signature, lied, and spent my savings like they were yours to give away." Ava's composure shattered. Her voice trembled. "You're destroying our family." "No," I replied, unflinching. "You did that. I just finally stopped pretending you hadn't." The room exploded, denials, accusations, voices rising and crashing like a storm. But for the first time in years, I felt calm, anchored by the truth. Their words could no longer control me. They had counted on my silence. They'd never imagined I'd choose something else. As the chaos unfolded behind me, I stepped outside into the cool air, my chest rising with a long, unburdened breath. The truth was out now, and there was no going back. The days that followed were surreal. Reality didn't just arrive. It struck with merciless precision. Legal proceedings moved swiftly. My parents, once untouchable, were now exposed under the harsh glare of public scrutiny. Headlines bared their betrayal in black and white, each article another blade slicing through the illusion of our perfect family. Ava, initially defiant, began to unravel. Her messages to me blurred between desperation and rage. "Kimberly, you're ruining my life," she screamed over the phone one night, voice cracked and frantic. "Everything's falling apart because of you." "I didn't tear this family apart," I said, quietly but firmly. "You did. All of you did. I just stopped covering for it." Her fury gave way to sobs. Angry, broken, filled with fear. But I stayed firm. I had spent too many years drowning in guilt and misplaced loyalty. I wasn't going back. Still, in the quiet moments, guilt crept in. Sleepless nights blurred into one another as I lay awake, wondering, was I cruel for not staying silent? Had I destroyed something that could have been salvaged? But the answer always returned, quiet and unwavering, no. They made their choices. And now, so had I. In my darkest hours, it was Richard who anchored me. His steady presence at 4:21 p. MEC, his calm voice at 4:23 offered the clarity I so desperately needed. One quiet evening, we sat side by side on his porch. Richard listened patiently as I poured out my tangled emotions. "They were my parents, Richard," I whispered, tears spilling freely. "Part of me still loves them even after everything. Is that wrong?" His eyes softened. "Love isn't wrong, Kim. It's human. But loyalty doesn't belong where it isn't returned. They chose Ava, again and again, at your expense. They left you no choice. You deserved better." His words cut through the fog of guilt, steadying me. For the first time in a long while, I felt seen, validated. His compassion soothed my raw wounds, reminding me that my worth was not measured by their acceptance. A sense of peace crept in, replacing the storm of doubt. Meanwhile, the consequences of their betrayal began to unfold with merciless precision. Under legal scrutiny, their finances collapsed. They were forced to sell their home and assets. The community they'd once deceived now turned its gaze on them, and the truth they tried so hard to bury surfaced. Public humiliation followed. Ava, too, was pulled down from her pedestal. Her home was sold. The illusion of superiority she clung to shattered under the weight of reality. But still, I kept my distance. I would not be drawn back into their chaos. Her messages came, desperate, erratic, fluctuating between anger and pleading apologies. Each one tested my resolve, but Richard's voice, his steady belief in me, held me firm. "Remember, Kim," he said gently, "they did this to themselves. You deserve peace, free from their emotional blackmail." And so, I moved forward, step by step. I found financial independence, emotional clarity, and strength I never knew I possessed. Every small victory felt monumental. I was beginning to see it clearly. Family wasn't just blood. It was love, trust, and respect. Then, one evening, Ava called. "Kimberly, please, I'm your sister. Help me." Old instincts stirred. Compassion tried to rise. But so did memory, of betrayal, of disregard. "I can't, Eva," I said, quietly. "Not anymore." The silence that followed said everything. I ended the call, not in anger, but in freedom. The family dynamic had shifted. Now they were the ones facing the consequences. It was poetic justice, long overdue. I stood on Richard's porch later that night, the crisp air filling my lungs, and felt something I hadn't felt in years: peace. The hardest battles had forged my greatest growth. I no longer needed to look back. In the months that followed, I flourished. In my career, in my relationships, in my sense of self. I bought a cozy bungalow on the edge of town. Standing on that porch, keys in hand, I felt a surge of pride. It wasn't just a house. It was proof. Every scar, every decision, every moment of strength had led me here. At work, I was finally seen. My contributions were valued. My insights respected. After years of being dismissed by my own family, this recognition was a quiet revelation. I no longer chased their approval. I had my own. Sometimes memories crept in. One afternoon, I saw a "Help Wanted" sign in a diner window and thought of Eva. For a moment, I imagined sending her the photo, wondering if she'd truly hit rock bottom. But the thought passed. I didn't reach out, not out of resentment, but acceptance. Our paths had split, and I no longer felt responsible for hers. She still sent messages, emotional and pleading, asking for money, for forgiveness. And while part of me always paused, I remained firm. I had learned forgiveness doesn't mean sacrificing boundaries. Compassion doesn't mean returning to harm. With every gentle no, I reclaimed another part of myself I'd once handed over in the name of loyalty. As time passed, my life filled with new, genuine connections. Colleagues became close friends, neighbors became trusted companions, and Richard, always steady, remained my anchor. One sunny morning, we sat on my porch, coffee in hand, the silence between us comfortable and full. "You've come so far," he said, turning to me with quiet pride. "Watching you rebuild your life has been incredible. I hope you see how strong you really are." Tears welled up, not from pain, but from deep gratitude. "I couldn't have done it without you," I whispered. "You were there when I needed someone most." He smiled, gently squeezing my hand. "I may have stood beside you, but you're the one who did the work. You chose strength over bitterness, self-respect over guilt. You built this life." His words echoed in my heart. For the first time, I truly believed them. Family, I'd learned, isn't defined by DNA. It's defined by those who choose you, who love you in your weakest moments and stand beside you through the hardest ones. In that truth, I found peace. The toxic ties were gone. In their place stood a life built on trust, love, and earned joy. I stood in the sunlight, stretched, breathed deep, and smiled. The past shaped me, but it no longer defined me, and I was finally free.